What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video, and today we have some big news coming out of St. Louis, Missouri, as the Blues have fired head coach Craig Berube. He will now be replaced by interim coach Drew Bannister, and this is a shocker for sure. This happened late last night, and I couldn't believe it when I heard it. I don't think that it's his fault at all that the Blues are, where they're at all. I think a lot of people should be looking more at Doug Armstrong. We're going to be talking about that a little bit later in the video, but Craig Berube fired. Berube is definitely a little bit of a folklore hero over there in St. Louis. I mean, he was the associate coach during that year where, the Blues were dead last in the league. He takes over as head coach, and then he leads them to a Stanley Cup. That was absolutely incredible. He's a fantastic head coach, and I'm just really shocked that this is the way that St. Louis dealt with the situation that they're in right now. They're a very mid to, lower tier team in the league this year, and I'm shocked that the organization can't realize that and keep around maybe one of the stronger pieces in the organization in Craig Berube. Now look, I get why they want to make a move at head coach. They want to, create a spark, see if they can get the team going. Like, look what happened in Edmonton, right? They were one of the worst teams in the league. They bring in, a brand new head coach, and now they're surging. They look like a great team. But that team actually has some players on it. That has two of the best players in the world. The St. Louis Blues do not have one of those, or even close to it. This is a very, mid team. A lot of people talked about the Jets being mid. Let's take a look at St. Louis. I mean, your first line currently is Robert Thomas, Jordan Kyrou, and Jake Neighbors. None of those guys are bad players. Robert Thomas obviously being the most elite of the bunch. But are any of those guys like, game changers? Your second line has a really nice player in Pavel Buchnevich, but then they have the corpse of Brandon Saad and Kasperi Kapanen, playing with them there. That's not going to work. I'm sorry. That's not a very good second line. That's not a, playoff second line, I don't think anyway. They have Kevin Hayes, Braden Shen, and Oscar Sundqvist on the third line. And look, Kevin Hayes acquired in the offseason. He's got, 8 goals, 6 assists this season. Look, Kevin Hayes is a fine player, but why did the Blues go and get him? That was such a weird decision. Gonna touch on that again, don't worry. And then, we take a look at the defense, and this is just, a bunch of good players, but nothing, world-changing or anything here. I mean, Nick Leddy and Colton Parayko, Torrey Krug, Justin Falk, Scandella, Perunovic. It's not bad by any means, but it's very, middle of the pack. You can say the same for goaltending. I mean, Jordan Binnington, he's good sometimes. He's bad a lot of the times. Joel Hofer, younger goaltender, just not that guy right now. Maybe he doesn't pan out. Maybe he does. I don't know. But some of the decisions made by Doug Armstrong are truly to blame here for the Blues being so, middle of the pack. And it starts with some of the contracts that they've handed out. Some of these are, absolutely ridiculous. We're going to start at the top here is, Jordan Kyrou and Robert Thomas. They make $8.1 million per season. That's fine. I mean, Robert Thomas, absolutely worth it. He's been fantastic. Kyrou, I'm not, totally sold that he's anything more than a 50 to 60 point guy on a regular basis. He did have that one really good season, but this year I just don't really see him making that big of an impact. Maybe that does change in the future. $8 million seems a little bit rich for him, but you can't be too mad at that contract, to be totally honest. Then after that, you've got Braden Shen, who's making $6.5 million until the end of 2029. That's rough. I mean, I know he's your captain and everything, but that's that contract has not aged very well. If we look at Pavel Buchnevich, he's a guy that's fantastic. I think that his cap hit's very fair. I think that the Blues can probably get a haul for him if they are looking to sell around the trade deadline. I think that Buchnevich would help really any team. I'm a Jets fan, and I would absolutely love to see that happen. Now, if we look at the defense core, I mean, this is where it gets a little bit worrisome, because if we look closely here, most of them have no trade clauses, and most of them are in their 30s. Justin Falk, the contract really isn't too terrible. I mean, 3 years after this season at $6.5 million, that's not the end of the world. He's a fine defenseman, whatever. Torrey Krug, same sort of thing, but, I don't know. It just sucks when you have two of those guys that maybe aren't at their peaks anymore, and you're still paying them pretty elite money. Maybe not elite money, but still pretty hefty money. And especially when the Blues are in this situation now where it looks like they're going to need to maybe start rebuilding a little bit, maybe start retooling. It's hard to move those guys when they have no trade clauses. They tried to move Torrey Krug in the offseason, and he denied it. He wouldn't take that trade. He wouldn't move, so he stayed in St. Louis, even though the Blues tried to trade him. Moving on, we did hear Colton Parayko's name around last year's NHL trade deadline. He's got a mammoth of a deal, $6.5 million, just like Krug and Falk, but this one ends in 2030. Yikes. I mean, he's already 30 years old. Maybe he's not the guy that, you know, we all thought that he would be when he was a rookie. He looked really good when he was younger. He's signed to this mammoth contract. Good luck moving that, St. Louis. He's got a no-trade clause anyway, so I don't know. That's a rough one. Nick Leddy, $4 million until 26-27. Another yikes. I mean, list goes on here. This is an old defensive core that isn't necessarily flashy, isn't really, you know, at their peaks anymore. And in the next couple of years, this could look way, way, way worse for St. Louis. And I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do. This is not a very good hockey team. And to further laugh at the cap situation, the Blues are paying $6 million to a 30-year-old Jordan Binnington with a no-trade clause until 27-28. So, look, if I'm a Blues fan, I'm just trying to get to 27-28 when Falk, Krug, Binnington, Nick Leddy are off the books so that, you know, maybe we can start this rebuild, maybe add a couple new players in here, pay some younger players, because this is rough. This is a really rough cap situation that the Blues are in, and this is largely due to Doug Armstrong's decision-making. I can totally respect, you know, a GM trying to go out there and make his team better, keep his team good for as long as possible, because at the end of the day, that's what the GM's job is, try to build a contender, try to build a winner. But I just don't think that Doug Armstrong went about it the right way this season, because, you know, if you look at this Blues team, they were really searching, how can we make this team better, how can we stay good, and their big move was to bring in Kevin Hayes. And, you know, he comes in at a fine cap hit at 3.5, as, you know, salary was retained in the trade. But is that really going to move the needle too much? It proves to have not this season. I mean, I don't know how much you can really expect from Kevin Hayes at this point in his career at 31 years old, but just 8 goals, you'd probably like a little bit more than that. You'd probably just like him to have a little bit more of an impact in general. I'm not saying that he should be putting up like an insane amount of points or anything like that. Throughout his career, he's been like a 30, 40, 50 point guy, and that's totally fine. I just don't see, you know, how he's really different from a lot of players here on the Blues. I think he's very comparable to Braden Shen, and I think that St. Louis just needed something different this offseason, and they didn't get it from Doug Armstrong, and that may cost his job in the offseason. Now, what comes next for the Blues? I think they're definitely going to have to just hope and pray that they can figure it out, maybe start winning. I don't think they have a bad roster at all. I just don't think that they have much finishing ability. I don't think that they have, you know, a whole lot of speed on that team. I just don't think that they have that X-factor player unless, you know, you really want to consider Robert Thomas that guy. It's just not a lineup that really has it anymore. It's an older roster, and in the end, they're just kind of mid. They're going to be fighting for a playoff spot with, you know, the Edmonton Oilers, the Arizona Coyotes, but in the end, I just don't see it. I don't think that the Blues are going to be a playoff team this year. I think they're going to be selling, and I think that's what they'd be, you know, better off to do. I think they should be looking at trying to move as much cap space as possible at the trade deadline and at the draft this year. I think that Pavel Buchnevich, even though he's a great player for the Blues, he's not going to be, you know, part of a retool or anything like that. I don't see the Blues being competitive at any point in the future in the next 3 to 4 years. So I think that Buchnevich should probably be moved and bring in what should be a really great package. I think he's a great player, and I think a lot of teams would be lining up to pay big bucks for him. But that's where I'm going to leave it, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a comment down below what you guys think about the firing of Craig Berube, the St. Louis Blues in general. Let me know. I want to hear about it down below. But that's all from me. Leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Go Jets, go! Bye-bye.